Hi there, welcome to the Healing Migraines Naturally podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Leslie Caesar, and I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, former chronic migraine sufferer, and I've dedicated my life to helping other women rediscover a migraine-free life. So welcome to the podcast. It is springtime in Chicago, and what does that mean? Allergy season. So I think this will be a great time to talk about allergies on the podcast. For many migraine sufferers, allergy season, right? Oh, you just dread it, right? Because it's very common for migraine sufferers to have a lot of nasal congestion, a lot of sinus problems. We've talked about this on a couple other podcasts, but I want to address allergies specifically, especially like seasonal allergies, right? What we're going through right now. It's particularly challenging for migraine sufferers if they are also prone to seasonal allergies. And like I say, a lot of women just dread the springtime, right? Because for most of us, that's going to be the time of year that we're experiencing allergies, right? So instead of being happy that winter's over and it's warming up and there's more sunlight and there's pretty blooming trees and the grass is greening up, right? Instead, we're dreading it. Oh no, I'm going to get more migraines, right? So a lot of migraine sufferers are also prone to seasonal allergies. So let's put this together, okay? This is not a coincidence. This is not an accident, okay? If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I hope you're getting that understanding. I know, one of the most common things that migraine sufferers say is my body hates me, right? My body hates me. I'm doomed. Why is this happening to me? Because migraines, they're so random, right? Why did this happen? Why did I get struck down with this? I woke up, I felt great. I thought it was going to be a great day. By 4 p.m., I'm in the bathroom vomiting. What's going on? Why am I being struck down by this? It seems so random. And so if there's one thing that you've gotten out of this podcast, it's not actually random. And that's good news, because when there's repeating patterns, that means that there's a reason behind it. And when there's a reason behind it, we can figure out what steps to take to turn it around. Okay, so to start off the podcast today on seasonal allergies, I'm going to tell you a story of a little girl growing up in suburban Chicago in the 80s, who by the time she was 14, every spring would experience horrible allergies. By the time she was 15, her nasal cavities would get so inflamed during allergy season that she would have spontaneous nosebleeds. She'd be sitting in class in high school, and all of a sudden her nose would start gushing blood in the middle of English class, right? It's bad enough being 15, but then you're going to have a horrible nosebleed for no reason in the middle of English class, right? It's no fun at all. Hi there. I want to jump in real quick and tell you about my client Beth. She was getting 15 to 20 migraines and headaches per month, and as you can imagine, this was impacting her work performance and her confidence. She also has 2 small children, and she was starting to feel like she was a horrible mom because she had nothing left for them at the end of the day. But she reached out and she booked a free consult call with me, and after I asked her about her migraines and her health history, I felt confident that I could help her. I help women uncover the root drivers of their migraines and follow a step-by-step plan to dramatically reduce the frequency by up to 90% without adding more medication or taking a bunch of supplements. So we built her personal migraine map, followed the plan, and now she will get 1 to 2 migraines per year, which she uses ibuprofen to treat if she needs to, versus up to 15 to 20 per month when we first started working together that weren't responding well to any medication. She just reached out to tell me that she got a promotion at work, she's on top of her career again, and has been able to come off all of her migraine medication. But most importantly, she's a confident mom again, and she's attending birthday parties at Jump Zone with her kids and saying yes instead of saying maybe later. I've worked with women like Beth from all over the United States who were told, this is the best we can do, but they were still willing to dig deeper. So if you're serious about changing your migraine story, go to drlesliecaesar.com/apply or tap the link in the show notes, and on our free consult, we'll map out why your migraines keep coming back and the first 3 steps you can take over the next 30 days. I do cap new client spots each month, so if the calendar is full, the doors are closed for now. But if you're done feeling helpless and ready to do the work to heal, pause this episode for 30 seconds and book that consult call now. This little girl, her parents cared a lot about her, and they would say, well, yeah, Leslie. Oh, Did I let it slip? This is a story about me. Oh, well, your father has allergies. Must be genetic. Well, let's take you into the allergist. So my parents dutifully took me into the allergist, got all the testing done. Surprise, surprise, I was allergic to everything that starts to grow in May in Chicago. The grass, the flowers, the pollen, the tree, the little baby tree leaves and all that little dust that they produce when they're first growing, right? I was allergic to all of that. And so what did they do? They formulated a special, blend of allergy shots for me. And by the time I was 16, I would be at home once a month jabbing my thigh with a needle full of allergy shots, right? And so this was considered, well, what can you do? It's genetic. Your father has it. What do you expect? Everybody has allergies, right? Again, this is certainly no criticism at all of my parents, right? They were like everybody else, right? We don't realize that symptoms like this are not random. They're not really genetic, right? Certainly, my father is predisposed to allergies, and I'm predisposed to allergies. There is a genetic component to the conditions or to the symptom patterns or symptom pictures that we are prone to get. But first, we have to fall out of a state of health. But, we didn't know that. My parents didn't know that. I certainly didn't know that, right? And so it was just sort of a given. Well, got your father's genetics, right? You got the allergy genes. So then, continue to suffer with that every spring in particular. And then, when I was sort of in my early mid-20s, migraine started. And then how'd that happen? I was perfectly fine until I got migraines, right? Oh no. What I didn't realize is I had a whole host of other symptoms, sort of early warning symptoms that were there a good 10 years before I started getting migraines that were actually signaling that I was developing some blockers or some deficiencies within what I call the 3 principles. These are the 3 things that your body needs to maintain its state of health. And when we're in a state of health, our body doesn't generate symptoms like seasonal allergies. We just feel good. I didn't know any of this when I started getting migraines every other day and would stagger home from work. And I first went to my medical doctor, who was a very nice woman, but I tremendously irritated her over the course of several months because I thought doctors figured out what was wrong with you and helped you fix things, and she kept giving me prescriptions that I didn't want to take, so I kept going back thinking that she would do something else, and she never did, and I just really irritated her after several rounds of this. So then I said, okay, I don't think I'll go back and do that route. Let me try to figure this out on my own. I think, right, there must be something here that I have control over, and if I just knew what it was and made the right changes, I think I would feel better, right? I had that intuitive knowing that I'm sure you have too. That's what brought you to this podcast, right? It's like, well, I know that this is something my body's trying to tell me. If I could just figure out what it is and I could take the right steps, I really think I would feel better and these would improve or go away, right? So I had that intuitive sense too. So I started looking at alternative medicine, natural medicine, right? This is like, I'm just like you guys, right? Everybody follows this path, right? You get fed up with the prescriptions and, bless your medical doctor's heart, right? But they're just not giving you what you know you need. And so you start looking for other options and you go into the alternative medicine space. So after bumbling around there and making my migraines worse and, doing a bunch of stuff that, like I say, made me even sicker, I had some pretty rough weekends playing around with some cleanses and things like that. So then after getting burned several times, I decided that I needed to search out somebody that actually knew what they were doing. And I did find a local chiropractor who really helped me transform my health. And I started working with him. It would have been late April, early May. The year would have been 1998. So it was right in the throes of allergy season, and I'm sure I had horrible allergies like I did every year, every spring. But the following spring, I didn't have any seasonal allergies. I breezed through the spring, through May. The worst time for me was always Memorial Day weekend because in the Chicago area, like clockwork, right around Memorial Day, the cottonwood releases all of that cottonwood fuzz, right? There's tons of cottonwood trees. I love cottonwood trees. They're one of my favorite trees. But right around Memorial Day here, they release those fuzzballs, right? And so those fuzzballs would just do me in right after struggling the whole month, and then those fuzzballs would be released and I would just be in agony. So then next spring, I'm like waiting for those fuzzballs. I mean, even now, like decades later, every Memorial Day, I'm like, oh, the fuzzballs are going to come. Not that I am afraid that I'm going to have allergies again, but I remember like in high school, because I was in marching band, and we would do the Memorial Day parade for the town. You know, we'd march in the parade, and then we'd go to the town cemetery, and we'd have to stand there at attention and, you know, play, you know, one of the trumpet players would play taps, and we'd be playing the Star Spangled Banner, and we'd have to stand there. And the cemetery had all these cottonwood trees, and so all this fuzz would be in the air every Memorial Day weekend when I had to do this parade, and I would just be dying, right? Because it's like you're supposed to be at, you know, parade rest. It's a solemn occasion. It's Memorial Day. And like, I'm just trying not to just totally lose it, right? I definitely, right? I have a little post-traumatic seasonal allergy response tied to Memorial Day. It's like I knew when I was going to get hit the worst, and I didn't get hit. And so it's not genetic, okay? Yes, I have a genetic predisposition to allergies, but I wasn't getting allergies because of my genetics. You're not getting allergies, you're not getting migraines because of your genetics. Yes, you have a predisposition, but you have to be out of a state of health before you're going to get those symptoms or conditions or diseases that you're genetically prone to. This is a critical thing that we have to start understanding as a society, because this is going to be a game changer for people when they really understand this. So allergies, any type of allergies, okay, whether it's allergies like to cats and you have them all year long if you're exposed to a cat, or seasonal allergies, all allergies at the root are a toxicity symptom. They're a symptom that there's an overload of metabolic waste materials and other toxins in the body. And if we get those toxins, those waste materials out of the body, the immune system stops overreacting and the allergy response stops. So when I started working with that local chiropractor, he did not talk about his work in the way that I talk about it. But when I look back on the work that we did, the recommendations that he made and that I implemented, a big part of that was supporting my liver's ability to clear these metabolic waste materials and toxins that had become overloaded in my body by the time I was 14, right? I wasn't having migraines then, but I was having these bad allergies. So this was an early warning symptom, a canary in the coal mine symptom, that things were starting to build up. But see, nobody understood that. The allergist certainly didn't understand that. And so what would have really been the appropriate action to take was not taken, okay? So just because I was given allergy shots and my immune system was being desensitized, that didn't do anything to address the underlying waste material overload, right? I was just sort of injecting something that was kind of manipulating my immune system to not overreact, but the underlying reason why the immune system was overreacting was still there. So you kind of let that roll, you let that continue to play out for another, 8-10 years, and boom, how did I get chronic migraines? Where did this happen? How did this happen to me? My body hates me, right? All of this, I went through all of that, right? How did this happen? So what's really happening with allergies, okay? So, in the springtime when everything starts to grow and bloom, all of that pollen, right? All of the things are in the air, and we're inhaling those little molecules. Okay, now this is normal. Okay, we've been inhaling these things since the dawn of time. Okay, and so our body is designed to protect itself from these molecules, because these molecules are basically airborne toxin molecules. We don't think about them that way, but that's basically what they are. Whenever, when we don't think there's anything in the air. It doesn't seem like there's anything here, right? It's clear, we're not seeing all of these little tiny, atomic particles in the air. So to us, unless it's, extreme, like there's been a wildfire or something, there's soot in the air, or, we really don't think that there's anything in the air, so to speak. But every time we breathe, we are inhaling tiny little molecules. These are external molecules. Things that are external to us, they're toxins, okay? And so when we inhale them, some of them are going to be absorbed via the capillary bed in our nose, right? Or you're taking it in through your mouth, you're going to absorb some things through your mouth. You bring it all the way into your lungs, they're definitely going to go into your bloodstream through your lungs, okay? Like I say, this is normal. We're designed to sort of protect ourselves against this. toxin onslaught, if you will, airborne toxin onslaught. So our immune system, there's a part of our immune system that lines every area of the body that comes in contact with the external environment, right? So it's almost like a standing army that's kind of standing guard, right, in our mucous membranes, in our mouth, in our digestive tract, any area that's going to come into contact with the outside world. Because when we're eating food, that's stuff from the outside, and our food has, bacteria on it and viruses and mold and the whole bit, right? We're inhaling little mold spores, we're inhaling little viruses or bacteria in addition to like a pollen molecule, right? This all of this is happening all the time. So our immune system is standing guard in all of these areas of our body to immediately say, okay, whoops, here's something that we don't want to have come in, okay? But inevitably, some of these molecules are going to come into the bloodstream. And then they're a toxin molecule now in our bloodstream. That little molecule is going to travel to our liver, and our liver is going to have to detoxify it so that it can leave the body. Your liver is doing this 24/7. We make waste materials, okay? So it's not just stuff coming in from the outside world that our liver has to deal with. We're continuously making metabolic waste material or byproducts that our liver has to detoxify so that it can leave the body. If there's already, the liver might have 20 slots to do this. I've got room for 20 molecules. I can run 20 molecules through these pathways. If I've got 20 molecules and I can accommodate 20 molecules, great. I can detoxify these molecules. They can get out of the body. I'm not going to develop an overload. What if I have 50 molecules? I've only got 20 slots, but I've got 50 molecules. Now I've got a problem. 20 are going to get processed and 30 are going to have to wait. So as they're waiting, they're going to stay in the body and they're going to toxin molecules, they kind of irritate things. So if I can't, if I've got 30 that I can't process, well, they're going to have to circulate around. They're going to have to come back around. And then when they do, I hope I have a space for them. Because in the meantime, I've already made more metabolic waste material. I've already breathed in a bunch of mold and grass and pollen and everything else, right? If our liver cannot accommodate the load and things start to build up, our body says, okay, what else can I do, right? We've got a backlog. We don't have enough capacity. What else can I do? So then the immune system says, oh, wait a minute here. We've got our normal standing army, but my goodness, we're overloaded here. I've got to work even harder, right? We used to let a few come in, we used to let a few toxin molecules in. We would get, the obvious stuff. But now, since we're overloaded, we've got to let even less in. So I need more troops. I need more mucus, right? How can I keep this stuff from coming into the bloodstream? Well, if I make a whole bunch of mucus, that's going to make it more difficult. Right now, instead of just like the capillary bed and kind of the normal little mucus layer, now I've got a thick layer. That's going to make it harder for those little tiny, pollen and grass molecules, etc. That's going to make it harder for them to get into the bloodstream. So I'm going to make it easier, right? I've already got an overload. Let's try to prevent more. So then our immune system gets even more activated. It goes from just sort of a normal level of alertness, routine, alertness, to, okay, right? We're in a war zone now, right? Rally the troops. We need the big guns, right? And so now we're making a nasal discharge, right? Our nose is running, all in order for the immune system to generate a nasal discharge. You have to have inflammation, okay? Everybody says, we talk about inflammation like it's this bad thing, but you have to have inflammation. The body uses inflammation to get stuff done. And so in order to generate more mucus to prevent these molecules from coming into your body and further overloading your liver, your immune system has to generate more inflammation to make that mucus, okay? So then my nasal cavities are even more inflamed. They get more and more inflamed to the point where now the capillaries are so irritated because of all this inflammation that they're spontaneously bursting, and I'm having nosebleeds in the middle of class in high school, okay? So this is what's driving allergies. It's not so much the pollen in the grass and the cottonwood fuzz. It's the level of overload of toxins within the body, okay? Because the next spring, the cottonwoods were the same, okay? The time of year was the same, right? The climate is the same. Everything was the same except me. I didn't have the toxin overload that I had. I was able to significantly lower the toxin load in my body. And I didn't know any of this. I didn't go into the chiropractor saying I have horrible allergies, right? I went there because of the migraines. But because he understood what it takes to restore the body to health. Again, he didn't talk about it in the way that I do, but when I look back, I'm like, yeah, he helped me improve my digestive function. He helped me put together a nutrient-dense diet, a health-supporting diet. And since my digestion was better, I could actually break that food down. So I got more nutrients into my body. And then these things that he recommended I do, which I implemented, that, yeah, now I know, oh, sure, that helped my liver move through these molecules faster. And we got that toxin bucket drained. We got those toxins out of my body. And then lo and behold, same Chicago, same trees, same environment, same plants, right? I didn't move. How many people move? How many people uproot their life and move because of allergies? A lot of people move because of migraine, but particularly people will move and uproot their whole family, their whole life because of severe allergies, right? Let me change the part of the country that I'm living in. Maybe, this climate will be better for me. Maybe these, I won't be around so many cottonwood trees. That'll be better for me. That's not the root cause. If you're struggling with allergies, they're connected to your migraines. Like I talked about on a podcast a couple weeks ago, migraines and headaches are major toxicity symptoms. Allergies are a toxicity symptom. They're very unpleasant, but usually they come before the migraine. Hi there. I want to jump in real quick and tell you about my client Beth. She was getting 15 to 20 migraines and headaches per month, and as you can imagine, this was impacting her work performance and her confidence. She also has 2 small children, and she was starting to feel like she was a horrible mom because she had nothing left for them at the end of the day. But she reached out and she booked a free consult call with me, and after I asked her about her migraines and her health history, I felt confident that I could help her. I help women uncover the root drivers of their migraines and follow a step-by-step plan to dramatically reduce the frequency by up to 90% without adding more medication or taking a bunch of supplements. So we built her personal migraine map, followed the plan, and now she will get 1 to 2 migraines per year, which she uses ibuprofen to treat if she needs to, versus up to 15 to 20 per month when we first started working together that weren't responding well to any medication. She just reached out to tell me that she got a promotion at work, she's on top of her career again, and has been able to come off all of her migraine medication. But most importantly, she's a confident mom again, and she's attending birthday parties at Jump Zone with her kids and saying yes instead of saying maybe later. I've worked with women like Beth from all over the United States who were told, this is the best we can do, but they were still willing to dig deeper. So if you're serious about changing your migraine story, go to drlesliecaesar.com/apply or tap the link in the show notes, and on our free consult, we'll map out why your migraines keep coming back and the first 3 steps you can take over the next 30 days. I do cap new client spots each month, so if the calendar is full, the doors are closed for now. But if you're done feeling helpless and ready to do the work to heal, pause this episode for 30 seconds and book that consult call now. So I've now talked to hundreds of women in depth around their health history, their symptoms, how their migraines developed. And most likely, the allergies are going to start before the migraines start. Many people, right, they had allergies as a kid. How many babies have eczema, right? How many little kids in elementary school are getting allergy shots, are on antihistamines, right? And then lo and behold, by the time they're in their early 20s, here's the migraine. That's the most common picture. If it didn't happen exactly like that for you, that's okay. But there's a predictable pattern to the body, right? Things are not random. I know it feels like this is just totally random and no one else has this, no one else suffers, my body hates me, but that's not the case. I'm here to tell you that the things that our body does are predictable, recurring patterns, and when you understand those patterns and how to interpret them, you can put together the right game plan so that you're not suffering so much. So this is one thing when I'm working with my clients. Many people have seasonal allergies, and so I might start working with them during the time of the year where their allergies are not that prominent, and I'll tell them, okay, next spring this is what we're looking for. next spring, we're looking for those cottonwood fluff to appear and you not having the reaction that you're used to having. And usually, when I tell clients this, they're like, okay, right? It just seems crazy, right? Because no one knows that allergies are actually a toxicity symptom. Everybody's blaming the immune system. Well, the immune system is just trying to help out. And then what do? We go in with the Benadryl, with the Allegra, with, the Sudafed, right? We're trying to shut all of that down because, yeah, it's very annoying, but we're shutting down what our body's doing to try to protect us, right? Because it's like you're already overloaded. I'm trying to prevent a further overload, and now you're preventing me from making the mucus that would protect you. I wanted to talk about this today, not only because we're in the prime allergy season, at least here in Chicago, but because I have a client that I talked to this morning, and she lives in South Carolina. And South Carolina, right, is notorious for that pine pollen, and so it's notorious for causing people problems. And so this particular client, every year, right, she really suffers with this, and she also has a history of asthma. She actually has an inhaler at home, right, because she's prone to asthma. So if you're already prone to asthma, just, TLDR, asthma is also a toxicity symptom. So if you're already prone to asthma, you live in South Carolina with these pine trees, right? You're just dreading this time of year every year, right? Just like me with those cottonwood puffs. They're just dreading that pine pollen season, right? So I just talked with her this morning. I said, well, how's the allergies? Right? And I knew that it was pollen season down there because we had been talking about it for the past couple of weeks. She said, yeah, it's so different. It really didn't bother me this year. And I said, yeah, isn't that great? And this is again, when you understand what the signals actually mean and you know how to intervene, recurring response, right? This is what I was expecting. She and I started working together in December. This was one of the symptoms that we identified that she's prone to. It is a seasonal symptom. I'm glad I was able to talk with her during the prime time of the season, and I was able to hear in real time that she had a minimal response this year. It wasn't totally gone, but it was much improved over what is typical for her. So again, why is that? It's because that pine pollen allergy response, it's not an immune system problem, it's a toxicity problem. And for the past 4 months, we've been draining that toxin bucket. It's not overflowing anymore. This client has gone from near daily, 6 days out of the week having a migraine, on preventative medication, worrying about overusing her abortives and going into rebound, right? Is it worth it? Should I take one for this or should I let it ride? That whole back and forth of should I take something or not? These little abortive pills are so precious to me, I can't run out at the end of the month. I mean, she's now taking Advil maybe once or twice a month, and she's off of her preventative medication. So the head pain is significantly better, and her pine pollen allergies are significantly better, in addition to a whole host of other symptoms that she was experiencing. So when you like I say, these things are not random, they're not disconnected. Your intuition that all of these things are connected at a root cause level is totally correct, okay? And so this is the type of intervention, analysis, and understanding. This is the type of intervention and analysis and understanding that I wanted when I went into my medical doctor, but she kept giving me prescriptions that I refused to take, and I irritated her so much. But bless her heart, right? I'm sure, I have no doubt, that this was actually the type of medicine that she wanted to practice, because I know that anyone who goes into medicine, anyone who goes into any of the healthcare professions, and certainly medical doctors, they go into the field with a very, very genuine desire to help people and ease the suffering of humanity. But unfortunately, unbeknownst to them, they're working from a false model. Okay, and so when you're working from a false model, the things that you do are not going to be in alignment with what should be really happening here. Okay, so let me know in the comments if this resonates for you, if you've been experiencing allergies in addition to migraines. Yep, the root of both of those things is the same. Both of those symptoms are actually what we call toxicity symptoms. They're predictable, recurring symptoms that the body generates when there's an overload of waste material, again, that we make ourselves, and things from the environment as well, naturally occurring or man-made, right? When we hear the word toxin, we're always thinking of like man-made chemicals that we've poisoned the earth with, but the natural environment is full of toxins too. The pollen is a toxin, basically, and that's a naturally occurring substance. So I hope this gives you some hope, okay? And I hope that this confirms what I'm sure your intuition has been telling you all of this time too. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'm really glad that you found the podcast. If you found this podcast or the content in general podcast helpful, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help us with the algorithms to get this information out to more and more women who are suffering from migraines. And if my approach resonates with you, and this is just what the thing you've been, and if this is just the thing that you've been looking for, then I'd love to talk with you on a free consult call. You can schedule that by clicking the link in the description. So thanks so much, and I will talk to you soon.